Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle from WeAreSC.com. Coming off a bye week, I've had a full week to get in a better mood, and I'm in a slightly better mood now. We'll see whether the other guys are. Um, Big game this week. We're going to talk. We're going to talk Nebraska. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about sort of the halfway point and what we've seen, what we hope to see. Maybe we'll talk coaching carousel. Maybe we'll talk Big Ten. Who knows what we're going to talk about? I don't know, and I'm hosting. You certainly don't know, and I'm not going to give you a preview. Okay, guys, let's jump right into this. Um, let's start with this. And Eric, I'm going to go to you first. How important is this Nebraska game to both USC and Nebraska?
It's really big for both. Really big. I had going into the Michigan game, that one was as much of a must win for Lincoln Riley that's still on this side of like you lose and you're fired. Like he wasn't gonna get fired if they had lost to Michigan. He's not gonna get fired if they go lose to Nebraska. But it feels the same. It feels that same level. Like the Michigan game, you absolutely had to win a home game at that stage in the season, coming off that bye against that Michigan team. True freshman quarterback going on the road, still not great balance offensively. Defensively lost a bunch of guys from a really good group the year before. This is that same hurdle that you have to jump. It's different because it's on the road, but this is the road game. You have to win this road game against this Nebraska team. You don't have to go beat like over the history of however long USC is in the Big Ten and Nebraska plays football. There's going to be some Nebraska teams that they probably put together where, hey, that's a tough road game. Like you go play well and that's fine. This one, no, you have to go beat this Nebraska team absolutely if you want to get anywhere close to whatever you said you were going to be as a program and as a team coming into this year. So yeah, this is significant. A lot of the Big Ten road games against pretty good teams, all right, that's tough. That's tough on the road. That's a good team, whatever. No, this is different for Lincoln Riley. You have to go win this game. And for Matt Rule, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. How many home games can you do? Well, we played them close. We played them close. Like you got to get over the hump if you're them too. And so you've got right, it's a night game. It's Halloween-ish. We've seen that or I think there was an Oregon State game for USC that was a problem. The blackout uniforms, all that stuff, like Nebraska's going to show up for this game, and so it feels again, must win is you're fired or your season's over if you don't win it, but it's just on this side of it for both teams. Both teams absolutely need this one.
Mark Culkin, agree or disagree with this statement, and then go ahead and give your reasoning. If USC loses this game to Nebraska, they cannot have what any reasonable USC fan would consider a successful season.
Agreed.
Okay, why?
I just feel like USC fan is getting they're getting comfortable settling. I mean, look, 9-3. Let's just assume USC finishes the season 9-3. Okay, assuming they finish 9-3. Is that an acceptable season? Sure, especially when you're coming off 7-6. Is that and I hate using the word expect, is that the expectation level at USC? Absolutely not. 9-3 is a great season for 90% of the programs across the country. It's not acceptable at USC. 10-2 is where you need to be. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the year. At least I did. Win all your home games. Win all 7 of your home games. You're now at 7 wins. Go figure out a way to find 3 wins on the road. Eric talked about it. You have to win this game against Nebraska. Period. There's no justification losing. And I get it. Lincoln, Nebraska, they sell out. It's never an easy place. It's intimidating, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't seem to affect programs like Northwestern. And if USC now has to compare themselves to Northwestern, say, hey, look, We can do the same thing they're doing. I don't know where USC is right now in their ascent to the top, as Coach Riley put it last week after practice. If you want to take those next steps, you have to win this game. You cannot, look so as well as you did at home against Michigan, look as bad as you did against Notre Dame 1 week later, get a bye week, go back on the road, and end up in the middle somewhere between Michigan and Notre Dame as far as your performance. That can't happen. We've got to find a level of consistency right now because, and maybe we'll talk about this later in the show. There's 9 head coach openings, and I don't think Lincoln Riley's name's going to jump on that pile at the end of the year. But if he's going to continue to say, hey, we're close, and the next step to becoming a good program, going from a good program to a great program, is that final step, winning on the road. He said it. You just have to win it. You have to go do it. I need to see it. So, yeah, this is an important win. This is an important game. Nebraska is not a good team by any way, shape, or form. I mean, if you have a team like Minnesota sacking your quarterback 9 times, I need to see at least half of that from USC in Lincoln, Nebraska. I need to see steps of improvement. I just want to see consistency. Show me the program is moving in the right direction, not this roller coaster where we're up 1 week, down the next week, up 1 week, down the next week, because that's not getting the job done.
Yeah, Greg, Mark brings up an interesting point. There is more pressure on head coaches right now than there ever has been before. You simply, when you see Brian Kelly get fired with a 34-14 record and he gets fired mid-year, with that much money owed to him. When you see James Franklin, who was in the playoff last year and is ranked number 2, and then has admittedly 3 egregious weeks, and now he's out, and they're gonna write him a giant 8-figure check. Nobody is safe. I'm not saying Lincoln Riley is going to get fired. I don't think he will, and I think it would take a monumental collapse in the second half, which I don't anticipate. But what you can say is that Lincoln Riley has to be looking around and realizing this is not an age of patience. When you have free agency, when you are constantly asking donors to give you millions and millions of dollars so you can pay your roster millions of dollars, when you yourself are making 10, 11, 12 million dollars a year, people don't want to hear it takes time, I'm building. They want you to win some frickin' football games right now. Now, with that in mind, Lincoln Riley's going to Nebraska, and he has to know that 10-2 is going to be extraordinarily difficult this year. I'll go ahead and say it. Riley won't say this. I'll say it. USC's not going 10-2 this year. They are not winning out. Just stop it. 9-3 is a possibility. At 9-3, the program can still claim they're on an upward trajectory, yes? But boy, if it's 8-4 or 7-5, I don't know how you spin that. So, Greg, if you're Lincoln Riley right now, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking we better win, because if we don't win, based on what we're seeing in college football, the names of coaches you have mentioned, and then when they got fired, I agree. They're not going to fire him in the middle of the season. He's still got a 5-2 record. He still technically has a shot at the college football playoffs. We can all sit there and say, oh, yeah, well, good luck to that. But the schedule, the way it is, the last 5 games, to me, really is going to say something. And the thing that I'm really honed in on is this is his 4th season at USC. Did you imagine that some of the discussions we've had and things that are going on would be taking place in his 4th season? Now, what does he have? He can distract. He can say we have the #1 recruiting class in the country at this moment. True, but they haven't signed yet. It's still December. Iowa is looking really, like they could be a real problem even at the Coliseum. They'll have a lot of fans there. Okay. We know about Oregon. That's going to be a tough one. Northwestern will play hard, and that's a Friday night game coming after this Saturday's Nebraska game. And I'm not saying that I believe that SC is going to lose to UCLA, but UCLA shows that they can be competitive. And who knows? I mean, they could go 8-4. They could do that. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Lincoln Riley. You can't keep saying, "Well, we got this great building we're building for football. Isn't that going to be great?" The only thing that's great is, what does that scoreboard say at the end of every one of your games? You've only got 5 left. I think that at the worst they should go. Well, they should be 4-1. I mean, that if you go by the fact that, logically speaking, Oregon's going to be a real challenge for them. But you know what? It's very possible that they could drop 2, maybe even 3 games. And that's why, if they lost to Nebraska this week, I'll tell you, there would be some real feces hitting the fan, because this is not a great Nebraska team. It's kind of like, this is not the Tom Osborne, Bob Devaney era. That's long gone. And what is SC going to do? I mean, away games for Lincoln Riley have been really kind of not a good thing. And if he takes another loss on this one, especially coming off a bye week, people are going to want to say, "Well, what did you do during the bye week?" And I find the game very appealing to me, just to see where they're at, where the coaching staff's at, what they did. But I think Lincoln Riley has to know, the way things are going with some of his colleagues in the college football world, nothing is impossible. Nothing. And I'll tell you what, for what, the last couple of years, we heard about how James Franklin at Penn State was in a lot of trouble, but he managed to have, some really good years where they just couldn't pull the trigger. But I'll tell you what, all that frustration, all those rumors must have been really hot on, because to fire him when they did, tells you they were ready to go with him.
Well, they lost 4 in a row, Greg. I mean, they went to the playoffs.
Mark, it doesn't make any difference. You know what? He was on the block, and for them to do it in the middle of the season, and look at, LSU doing it in the middle of the season. I had friends that have told me that Kelly was very difficult to deal with, even when he was at Notre Dame, and did not say a lot of good words for him. So was I shocked? Not really shocked, but when it actually happens, you have to ask yourself, what was the buildup behind the door? What were they saying in the boardrooms? If this guy loses this game, he's gone. And I don't know with Riley. I think Riley is kind of holding on in some ways, because all these coaches that get fired, SC's got a lot of pride, and they spent a lot of money on this coach, but they're watching these other schools and what they're doing and what they're handling, and they need to be competitive. So we'll see.
Yeah, look, none of us are predicting that Lincoln Riley is going to be fired. It's important to realize that the pressure on these head coaches is enormous, and USC is spending a lot of money on Lincoln Riley. That's not all they're spending a lot of money on. They are spending a lot of money on NIL. They're spending a lot of money on this new building, and they've done all kinds of work to give Lincoln Riley everything that he would need to succeed, right?
Absolutely.
We'll give you the money for a roster. We're gonna build you a new facility. We're gonna give you essentially a blank check to go out and hire the best defensive coaches you can find. They've given him everything that a head coach could ask them to give. I'll give you a general manager that's one of the best young general managers in the game, and he's going to take a lot of that administrative burden off. And so USC has made major investments that we've all applauded. And so now the question for everybody is, okay, what's Lincoln Riley going to do with it? Now, here's my big picture question for you guys. You ready? When's the last time USC played well on the road?
Is that a bowl game?
I'm not talking about neutral site against LSU, although maybe we can count that as a road game. That was a pro LSU crowd. It was away from the Coliseum, and so that's fine. Certainly not talking about something like Purdue. They beat Purdue, but they didn't play particularly well. They kept settling for 3. They gave up a lot of passing yards. They got a couple of picks that kept the game from being too close. When's the last time they played a good football game on both sides of the ball on the road?
Oh, now
Have
you
they ever under Lincoln Riley's tenure?
You had to go in and add on both sides of the ball just to make it even more challenging, didn't you, Chris?
Well, I know they've had some.
I get you.
I know they've had some good offensive performances on the road, and it helps if you get to bring, if you get to bring Caleb Williams with you, you might score some points in any stadium you're in. And they played at least one good defensive game on the road against Oregon State a few years ago. I'm just asking, when's the last time USC played a complete game on the road? I think you have to go back to Clay Helton's tenure.
No,
Am I wrong?
No, you're not. It's odd. And what's really weird is outside of that game against Notre Dame last week, USC's been the favorite on the road against all these teams too. So that's what makes it so much more perplexing. I mean, I don't know, maybe you want to use one of the games that they lost last year, even though it happened in the fourth quarter, but you're asking a great question. And that's why I talked about it, in the first, Lincoln Riley said the ascent, the last step is winning on the road, beating good teams. They haven't done it. They have not done it.
So let's jump into Nebraska, because is Nebraska a great football team? No, Nebraska's not a great football team. They are 6-2. They have a talented quarterback. They have a running back that's put up pretty decent numbers. They have a good pass in defense. They're playing at home against a crowd that is going to be very vocal and very into it. I'm looking at this game, guys, and I'm saying, should USC win? Probably. Do I think it's going to be a dogfight that comes down to the last 4 minutes of the game? You bet I do. How can we expect otherwise? I've watched, this is year 4 of Lincoln Riley, and I've never seen him take a USC team on the road and just dominate on both sides of the ball. Never seen it. So, Eric McKinney, what do you expect to see against Nebraska? Let's start with USC's offense against Nebraska's defense. What should USC fans know before this matchup?
It's about USC's offense. I mean, that's what all these things are, right? It's can you keep the ball? Can you not turn it over on the road? And I think you're going to be fine. I think you're going to be fine. Nebraska does not have the edge rusher or edge rushers, or really even the pass rush that kind of worries you in this one. Like, the defensive numbers that they've put up are good. You go look at sort of who they've played, and it's a Michigan, it's a Michigan State, it's a Northwestern. Like, it's not a ton of great teams. They still have some of the Nebraska numbers are still a little bit of some of the USC numbers, where you've got a couple 2-3 games at the beginning of the year where you see the abbreviation of who they played and you're like, I don't even know what that team is. Like, so there's still some over there. But again, it's, can USC finish its drives? And I don't even mean in points, right? It's like, can you take every drive to completion? If it's flipping the field and punting, if it's a field goal, if it's touchdown, like whatever. It was the breakdown at Notre Dame. That Notre Dame defense is much better than what Nebraska's going to put on the field. They got into the fourth quarter, and it was just 2 breakdowns in terms of turnovers, and then you had a couple throughout the game on fourth downs that are like, that's not your fourth down play call. Like, that's not what it's been all year. You've been much better than that on fourth down. And so it's just, can the offense show up on the road and hold on to the ball and keep moving it down the field? Again, there's nothing that Nebraska is going to put out there that's like, oh my gosh, that guy's out there. What do we do about that? And so I think that's going to be the biggest key for USC offense. Like, can you just control sort of what you can control and make your plays?
Greg, I am concerned about the USC running game. The running game numbers look good. The running game really bogged down against Notre Dame. And I think that's partly Notre Dame. I think it's partly that Wayman Jordan isn't on the field anymore. And I like Brian Jackson. I like King Miller. I mean, I think he's a folk hero, and he's done some things you don't expect a redshirt freshman walk-on to do. neither one of those guys is in the same universe as Wayman Jordan in terms of his ability to make things happen all by himself. Because Jordan can. I'm a little bit worried USC is going to be one-dimensional, even though Nebraska, if you look at their running, their rush defense statistics, not great. I still am a little bit concerned that USC is going to be one-dimensional Saturday. Can you talk me off the ledge, Greg? Are you going to join me on this ledge?
Can I push you off? Bottom line is I think that Nebraska is not exceptional against the rush defense. But I hate to go back to things I've said before, but you know what? There is consistency. We're not at the start of the season anymore. We're actually beyond the midpoint with just 5 games left. So, am I expecting miracles to happen? I mean, they could catch fire. That happens to a lot of teams. They catch fire, and you say, "Well, whoa, what happened to that? What happened in the first 7 games, let's say?" But take a look at this. They lost. They being Nebraska, they lost to Michigan 30-27, and we know that SC did a pretty good job on Michigan when Michigan was out here. They beat Michigan State 38-27. I think that Nebraska's capable. Nebraska's had really very little success against USC when they've played them. And SC has beaten Nebraska when both teams, the programs are really strong. But that was a long, long time ago. And the point is Nebraska has a good reason to come up all fired up. They have to win to stay in the quote world of we can still make the college football playoffs. They have that. The fans know it. SC is the number 23 team in the country. Whether you believe that or not, that's what's going to be pumped up for that Nebraska crowd, that if we can beat the number 23 team in the country, a lot of good things are going to happen. I suspect that the game is going to be a real tough game. If SC does not get it seems like I say this all the time, get a nice lead and force Nebraska to have to really go after it to stay in the game. Now they have a quarterback, who the Trojans wanted at some point, Dylan Raiola. He was a 5-star recruit. Riola's uncle is part of the coaching staff at Nebraska. So how that all played out, kind of like, okay, what did you expect? But I think this Nebraska crowd is going to be into it. I think that I get concerned when you talk about the running game in USC. I get concerned whether SC is going to try to pass it all the time. Are they going to really go after the running game? I think probably. I think you hit the nail on the head. They miss Wayman Jordan. There's no question about that. But I'll tell you what, they've got 2 guys that could get the job done. The question is what is Maava going to do? Okay, he's coming off a game where he had some good statistics against Notre Dame, but he also had some really difficult times as well in interceptions. Is he going to play a really clueless game in terms of not having interceptions, keeping his poise? I've been in Nebraska. I was on the sidelines and last time the Trojans were there with Pete Carroll, in the 4th quarter. I know what that crowd can do. Now, Carroll took them out and SC took them out. They were really, that was a real USC team that went with Pete Carroll in Nebraska. So I think SC is going to have a real challenge here if they don't get ahead and are able to do it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, Mark. So the question about how is Jade Maava going to play on the road? Maava is an improved quarterback this year. I don't think there's any question about that, and he has some people to throw to. But I wonder if Notre Dame hasn't given the blueprint. That is, don't let USC be balanced. Put guys in the box, play downhill, get up on those receivers. Are you going to be able to handle them consistently? No. Grab them if you must, right? And you're probably going to give up a big play to Makai. You're probably going to give up a big play to Jacoby. But if you make USC one-dimensional and you keep putting pressure on Maava, you're going to get a mistake or two, and you're going to be all right. Like this seems to me to be the blueprint. Now, Nebraska's pass defense this year, giving up 4.8 yards per passing play. They have given up 4.98 yards per attempt, 127 yards per game, 3 touchdowns all season. And you say, well, they haven't played a lot of great passing teams. Well, that's true. But if USC had played Georgia Southern 8 times, they would have given up more than those yards and those touchdown numbers. Those are impressive numbers 8 games into the season. So, Mark, what's Nebraska going to do? Are they going to take the Notre Dame approach, or are they going to do what Michigan did, thankfully, which is say, I don't really want to deal with those wideouts. Let's play 9 yards off and just let Marvin get the ball out of his hand immediately. I mean, you can tell which one I hope they do. What do you expect to see?
I expect to see Notre Dame's blueprint put into action. I mean, it's the smart thing to do, right? If you take away USC's balance on offense, they become very pedestrian. And that's what we saw 2 weeks ago, or almost 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how Matt Rule approaches this. Again, they're playing at home. I remember the last time USC played Nebraska, one of USC's former defensive backs got the best of USC, Sia Wright. So you don't want to see that happen again. But yeah, you have to give some credence to those stats that you just rattled off. I get it; they haven't played the greatest passing teams, but when you're holding the opponent to 5 yards per attempt, you're doing something right. Schematically, you're doing the right thing. The only thing I question about Jaden Mayaba, because he is a much improved quarterback this year, is he going to start questioning himself if he doesn't have those big windows to throw to? Will he allow his playmakers to make a play, or will he all of a sudden dump down and now you're only completing those 4 to 5 yard passes? That's my concern, especially if the USC run game isn't working. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting game to see does Jaden Mayaba have the confidence in himself to shake off what happened last week, which he didn't have a great game. I mean, he was 52%, 56% completion rate. The 2 interceptions obviously stand out. There were some drops, don't get me wrong, but that wasn't his best game. And I need to see him be able to shake that off, come out on the road again, and be the leader of this team. Stay in neutral, as he talked about at the beginning of the year, and be able to make the right decision. Just because the play call comes in on 4th and short, let's throw it to Lake McCree. If you see that you can run for the first down, run for the first down. I'm pretty confident Coach Riley will forgive you. You don't have to run the play that's called. You have to be able to take what's available. And I have not seen Jaden do that on a consistent basis yet this year.
Chris, the USC run game, right? If Nebraska wants, we're going to do what Notre Dame did, that's fine. Nebraska's bringing in like the 102nd ranked run defense. Notre Dame had the top 25 run defense going into that one. Like, they've done it for most of the year. Notre Dame's linebackers are not on the field in Lincoln this week. Like, the run blitzes they had dialed up, the first step of those linebackers, like the safeties playing down and taking that away. If Nebraska wants to come out and say, hey, let's try to do something that we haven't done all year that we saw somebody else do, that's fine. That's fine. You're not going to have the same success. You're just not. So I have not a ton of concern about, are they going to completely eliminate USC's run game? No, USC's got to be cleaner in that. Like, the tight ends have to be better. The linemen have to be more physical at the point of attack, all of that. But the idea that Nebraska is just going to go, oh yeah, we'll just be that now this week. I don't think so. You're not playing with the same pieces. You haven't done it all year. Like, that's a tough thing for me to say. Yeah, they're just going to completely lock it up by saying we're going to do this new thing.
Yeah, I don't think any. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm saying that's the blueprint. But we saw Illinois do it. And again, Notre Dame's better than Illinois. We saw Notre Dame do it. I have to imagine Nebraska playing at home. It's going to be fired up. It's a blackout, whatever. You have to take into consideration USC does not perform well on the road. And so until they show us they can perform well on the road, all the stuff's on the table. Whether they have the pieces or not, I mean, right now, evidence is on my side until proven wrong.
Well,
I tell you
I'll
what,
say this. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
we have to remember when we talk about SC, we got to talk about the players' mentality. They have also know that they have not done well on the road. Okay. And that's going to be a big issue. Uh, to say we're going to break something that seems like, okay, we're on the road. How many, another loss. Now, I'm not saying they're going in, vocally saying, oh, we're not going to win. They're going to say, oh, yeah, we're going to kick their ass. But you know what? Deep down in their mindset, they know what you know. They know what all of you on this panel know. And they have to avoid getting in a position that doesn't seep into their head sometime in the game and saying, we've been through this before and we know what the outcome tends to be. And really, it's really what it says to the scoreboard at the end. And they have to really avoid not losing this game. I hate to sound so, they have to win this game, but based on what I've seen with the other teams are going to play in the future, they really have to win this game as badly as Nebraska feels they have to win the game. And that's what the excitement is to me. Who's going to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think USC has a lot more pressure on them than Nebraska does. Nebraska can lose this game, and if they play well, Matt Rule is not going to be fired, and Nebraska can still finish with a decent season. I don't think anybody at Nebraska really expected to make the college football playoff. I think the pressure's on USC, and I agree with Eric that Nebraska is not as good personnel wise as Notre Dame is. I do think they're going to commit to stopping the run, because if they can make USC one-dimensional, when USC's one-dimensional, what they tend to do is rely a whole bunch on 50-50 balls to their guys downfield. That's been the case for a couple of years now, and as good as Jacoby Lane is with his long arms, he hasn't been spectacular on 50-50 balls, and I don't know that, other than Mekhi Lemon, I don't know that I would trust any of USC's other wide receivers to consistently make those plays. I think Nebraska is going to try to slow down the USC running game. I think there's a chance they can do it. Purdue slowed down USC's running game on the road. I think USC didn't run the ball as well against Illinois as they had been running it against other teams. Notre Dame shut it down. USC doesn't run the ball on the road as well as they do at home. So I think there's a chance that they can do that. The other thing I would say is I agree that Jade Mailava needs to use his legs. I mean, there are times when Mailava's outside the pocket against Notre Dame and could have picked up 7-8 yards and chose not to and threw an incompletion instead. And USC's run game gets extraordinarily predictable when Mailava isn't willing to keep it 6, 7, 8, 9 times in a game. Because it's not like USC has a diverse run game. You know which side they're running to, and you see them line up for the most part, right? And USC shifting the running back and forth to find numbers. You know where they're going with it. If Mailava's not willing to run the football, that essentially lets the backside edge come free, and it gives you an extra defender on the play. And he hasn't been willing to do that recently. He's going to have to do it. I mean, even against Nebraska, who I don't think is a great defense, he's going to have to do that, and I don't know if he's willing to, because he hasn't been. Let's flip it on the other side of the ball. Nebraska, if you look at Nebraska's team stats, their running game doesn't look great. Part of that is Nebraska gets sacked so much that it really devastates their rushing stats. If you look just at the running plays, especially the running plays to the halfback, they ain't bad. They can run the football a little bit. Guys, if Nebraska commits to running the football, does anybody on this show think that USC is going to stop them? I'm not saying that they're never going to get a stop, but if Nebraska commits to running the football, they're going to have success running the ball, aren't they? Because if you commit to running the ball against USC, you can do it. Michigan was one-dimensional because of the freshman quarterback, but Michigan was playing from behind for most of the second half, and therefore did not commit to the run the way they wanted to. They didn't have their best back. If Michigan commits to the run against USC the whole game, Michigan runs for a lot more yards. USC didn't shut down Michigan's running game. USC's offense shut down Michigan's running game. So, guys, Nebraska's going to be able to run the ball Saturday, aren't they? Greg, they're going to run it, aren't they?
Nebraska, this is kind of like conservatively saying they're going to attempt to do it. And why wouldn't they? SC's got to prove that they can stop a running game. We were so inundated. I mean, I don't know whether you guys were. I don't think you were, but I know I wasn't with all the high talk of we've got bigger players, we got stronger players. Everything was like, here comes the final four of final fours of college football, and you have these high expectations based on what the coaches say. And we know that the coaches are always they want to build up their own team. They read and watch videos and everything else. But I think in the end that SC has to believe in itself that they can stop or run. Emmett Johnson, 5'11", 200 for Nebraska, has that, he's scored 9 TDs. He's a tough running back. It depends on how much, Nebraska head coach who likes to pass the ball, how much he's devoted to running the ball against SC. Which one of these coaches is going to stick believing they can run the ball against the other team? Now, both teams believe they have a passer. Trojans, obviously, Mayaba, I agree, he's much better in a lot of areas. But, Riola is still a talent. And if they don't get to him and don't rough him up, get him off his mark, whatever the case may be, if he gets hot and starts rolling, I think we all know that the SC corners are still a real question mark. Okay. And if Nebraska is able to actually run the ball and Riola gets hot, SC's defense is gonna have a real challenge. And they better get some sacks in. Let's put it this way: they can't have missed tackles and that sort of stuff.
And Nebraska has given up a lot of sacks this year. That has their pass protection has been lousy. Okay, Eric, I'm just going to say it. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't trust this USC defense. I don't trust them at all. I don't trust the secondary to be in the right spot. USC has never made a commitment to stopping the run. If they had made a commitment to stopping the run, they would have made some personnel changes by now, and they'd clean up some of the fundamental things that they do wrong consistently. Edges coming too far upfield to actually hold a good edge. Defensive linemen that don't get off blocks very effectively. Guys going to the wrong gap. And an inside linebacker who doesn't play against the run. He just doesn't. I mean, we should stop pretending that he does. And you had the article showing the PFF numbers, which I don't put a ton of stock into, but directionally they at least show you some things. And what they show is that USC's starting inside linebacker is the worst linebacker against the run in the nation. That's what the numbers show. Now, am I saying he's the worst against the run in the nation? No, I'm saying that's what the numbers suggested. And the fact that did not shock me probably tells you all you need to know. Eric, I don't trust the defense. What do you expect to see on the road against a hungry Nebraska team and a raucous crowd?
I expect that if they put up good numbers and win, there's going to be some turnovers involved. And somehow a big performance from that defensive line in terms of getting to Dylan Raiola and getting sacks. Because, yeah, I mean, Nebraska has shown if they give it to Emmett Johnson, right? And he's got some games, 25, 27, over 20 carries in a lot of the games that are tight. Like what against Minnesota, it goes down because they got down and then they got to throw. Stuff like that. They will rely on him, and he's top 10 in the country in terms of yards per game. I'll be surprised if at Nebraska he's under 100 yards in this one. And I think it's going to be, again, that's what keeps it tight. That's what keeps it tight is that USC cannot come out and smother a run game on the road. When you talk about, what are people going to do against USC? Oh, you have 6+ in the box all the time, somebody else coming, and you put more hats in there than USC can block. And USC hasn't done that. And I don't know if they will in this one. And it feels like it's They gave up so many big pass plays early. We're not going to do that. We're just not going to do that. And the other stuff can shake out, and we'll try to make enough tackles during the game where they have to run enough plays to where we get an interception at the 2 yard line because the quarterback loses his mind during the play, or we punch something out lucky as the ball's going across the goal line on a run play. Like they're going to have to make individual plays like that to get the ball back and to create turnovers because yeah, Nebraska, if they want to just sit on it and run, it's going to be really hard for USC to figure that out because it hasn't happened to this point, and you're not going to get the crowd on your side. And as long as Nebraska kind of sticks with that, it's going to be tough for them.
Mark, Dylan Raiola, obviously a huge name. He was a huge recruit. I was unimpressed with him as a true freshman, but that's not unusual for true freshman quarterbacks to be unimpressive. He looks like a better player to me this year. He doesn't get protected very well, but the numbers still look pretty good. He's thrown some picks, but but he's putting up 250 yards a game or so. I think he has 17 touchdown passes. It's a guy who has some talent and can make plays. Now, good news is the USC secondary seems to have solidified a little bit over the last couple of weeks, right? I mean, that a secondary that looked like an absolute disaster a month ago, you look at it and say, okay, these guys seem to be playing a little better. And so maybe that's maybe that's wishful thinking, or maybe that's real. What do you expect to see from USC's defense against this Nebraska passing attack?
So you brought up the point that the secondary has gotten better these last few games, and I think that has to do with them cutting down on their rotation, just sticking with the guys that are performing well. And it looks like it's DeCarlos Nicholson and Marcellus Williams on the outside. USC's been fine at safety. I think Kamari Ramsey's been a little lost, playing so much nickel. Hopefully they can get that figured out. The more that Alex can play, the more Alex Graham can maybe feel comfortable with that nickel position. Look, I might be wrong, but if I'm USC, if I'm Danton Lynn, I'm loading that box with 7, 8 guys. I'm just trusting my guys to go one-on-one in the secondary because they've gotten better these last few games, because you have to stop the run. If Emmett Johnson cannot get off, go ahead, Dylan, beat us. Figure it out. You're at home. Can Nebraska one-dimensionally throwing the ball beat USC? That's the bottom line for me. We've been talking about it. Stop the run, because when Nebraska leans into their run game, they're pretty effective. But when you ask those guys to pass protect, they're terrible. They're just god awful.
If Denton Lynn wasn't willing to commit to stopping the run at Notre Dame with those two backs and a freshman quarterback, he ain't going to do it against Nebraska. They're going to do the same thing they do.
Might be a long afternoon.
Well, I mean, look, they're going to do the same thing they did against Illinois and the same thing they did against Notre Dame, which is they're just going to hope that the other team's running game struggles. Maybe hope that there's a holding penalty, right? I mean, that's what they've done all season.
Look, they can cut off their nose to spite their face and say, well, I just have confidence in my guys to get it done. At a certain point, you got to just put the Band-Aid on and say, look, you're not getting it done. We're going to change things up a little bit schematically, maybe disguise some stuff, but you've got to stop the run game, period. End of story. There's not a whole lot of discussion for this with me. Because if Nebraska's running the ball and they're doing it effectively, USC will not come home with a win. Just mark it down. You heard it here first.
No, I agree with that. Well, if they do, it's because they're going to win the game 38-37 and they're going to score at the end to do it. But
the score is they're not going to win the game.
Yeah. Guys, we haven't talked much about special teams, in large part because Sayeri's been so good and his kickoffs have been so good that you see that there's very little to complain about over there. USC punts rarely, and when they do punt, they tend to punt pretty well. But boy, that was quite a time. That was quite a time for the special teams miscues to make an appearance this season, when USC scores twice to take the lead and then they give up a kick return touchdown.
Nebraska's got a kick return touchdown. They're number 3 in the nation in kickoff returns. Yeah.
Yep.
It
Yep.
hasn't, you did not go into that game thinking, oh man, they better be buttoned up on special teams. It'd been fine. It'd been
Yep.
fine. That had not been an issue. And then suddenly on like the most important kick coverage of the year, just to break down. And again, you want to talk about the holding, whatever, all that stuff, that's fine. There's 3 guys, right, with either an ability to take a better angle or make a tackle on that play. And there, I mean, every kick return's got something on it like that, but there's always a chance to make a play, and they didn't. And that's going to be, again, now you go into this one, can't happen. Can't happen. Can't happen. And you got all eyes on it. And again, Nebraska's been fine there. They've been pretty good.
You haven't seen much in the way of kick returns from USC. I don't think USC's blocked for a returner in a couple of years. So I wouldn't expect much from USC's return game. Frankly, I wouldn't expect a repeat of what you saw against Notre Dame. It's just that these are the sorts of things that you can't have, right? You just can't have it. You can't, if you come through clean and you hit that return guy at what, the 16, 17, 18-yard line, you got to hold on to that dude for dear life until you get help. You just do. And so, but I bring that up for this reason, because there are parts of the game that USC expects to be fine at, because you've seen them be fine at it for much of the year. But on the road, especially, you tend to have these things come up, right? You whether it's the kickoff return, whether it's somebody wandering downfield on a trick play for no apparent reason and taking away a touchdown. Just on the road, USC does not seem to have the same poise and the same discipline that they play with most of the time at the Coliseum. And that means that if you're in a close game, there's always the chance that somebody's just going to do something stupid that makes it very difficult to win the game. So let's get back to this issue. Guys, can we expect USC to play poised and smart and disciplined on the road? And if we can expect that, where in the world is the evidence to support it? Because I so badly want to believe that will happen Saturday, and I don't know how.
Chris, this is it. This is why it's just a hair on this side of must win for Lincoln Riley. That's why. Because again, if this isn't the game, right? You had some tough, the Purdue road game. Yeah, there's some confusion with the weather thing, and like you had to overcome that, and there was some stuff there. Purdue's losing to everybody. Purdue's not a benchmark game that you say, oh, we won on the road. There we go. You had 4 games. You had 4 road games this year, and a couple of them look pretty tough, right? Like going to Notre Dame, always hard. We'll see what happens at Oregon. That one, nobody chalked that one up preseason as, yeah, we're good. We're gonna go win that game. But you had a chance to go beat Illinois, and now you've got a real chance to go beat Nebraska. And if you don't do any of those this year, then again, like I said about Michigan, if you're not going to beat that Michigan team at home, when are you planning on beating Michigan? If you're not going to go get this Big Ten win on the road, when are you planning on going and getting a real Big Ten win on the road? And that's all the stuff that goes into it. Can you keep your wits about you, make the right plays, not get flagged for pass interference late, not give up a horrible kickoff return touchdown? Like, can you play the way that everyone sort of says you can play, and everyone believes you can play on the road? Can you actually put that together? And then it becomes, if not, why not? Because now you're at 4 years of struggling on the road. And that's one of those things where you can be the least talented team and still put together an effort on the road where stuff's buttoned up and you're not just making these insanely confusing plays on all 3 sides, like O'Reilly likes to say. And so that's where this becomes such an important thing. Like, yeah, the win-loss thing is absolutely gonna be huge in how you discuss it, but don't fall apart. Don't fall apart on one side and just have it be like, what were you even doing? What were you doing on defense? What were you doing on offense? What was that play that a couple guys made? That's where the sort of buttoned up, start to finish, all three sides. That's the question you have to answer in this one.
Anybody want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, tackle the guy. I mean, the ball was kicked 2 yards deep in the end zone. Ryan has been fantastic on kickoffs.
Yep.
Just because it did not clear the end zone doesn't mean it wasn't a good kickoff. It was actually angled to the corner a little bit. So USC had everything set up the way it should be. Funnel everything to the sideline. Tamir Robinson, hang on for dear life, and maybe one of your guys gets there to help you bring him down. That didn't happen. And then the hold happens, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races for a touchdown. There's absolutely zero reason that USC is not better on special teams consistently. This is why you talk about, you're bringing in all this talent so you can start, as a freshman, you can go make an impression on the coaching staff on special teams. Tamir Robinson isn't a freshman. You're bringing guys in who should be able to get the job done. And look, you can blame this, like, well, you don't have a full-time assistant coach at the position. They spend plenty of time on special teams at practice. We don't get to see it, but we're told they spend plenty of time working on special teams. I'm not sure why it's not getting the job done and why it always.
And the specialists have been good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they kick well, they punt well. They do not block for return men, and for the most part, they haven't had to cover kicks. But when they've had to, it's been fine. And that's why it seems to me, and we'll do our predictions at the end, but it seems to me this game really comes down to one thing. Can USC go on the road, take care of business, and play poised, smart football? Because if they do that, USC's better than this Nebraska team. They are. They're better than this Nebraska team. It's not a terrible Nebraska team, right? It's a real football team. They won 6 games. It's not like this is the worst team on the schedule. They're not. But they're not a great team. It's a team USC should beat. They're 6.5-point favorites on the road, despite the fact that everybody knows USC doesn't play on the road because everybody looks at the rosters and says, you shouldn't lose this game.
There's very little concern if this is in the Coliseum.
Let me ask you, was Northwestern severely underrated to start the year? Because they were picked to finish 18th. Then Purdue and UCLA were to battle for that last spot. Northwestern went into Lincoln, Nebraska. They had their way.
Northwestern has not looked terrible this year. That's a better Northwestern team than people expected. But I'm with you. There's no reason that if you're struggling against Northwestern at home, that's not a good sign. Let's bookmark that for a couple of weeks. But my point is this: this is a Nebraska team that lost a very close game to Michigan. They beat Michigan State. They put up some okay numbers on offense. It's not a terrible team. It's not a terrible team. It's not a very good team. It's a game that USC wins if USC plays competently and poised. They win the game. The question is whether they can do that, and I don't know because we haven't seen it. We just haven't seen it. We see sloppiness on the road. We see guys missing assignments on the road. That's what we see, and we see it week in and week out. At some point for Lincoln Riley to get this program where he says it's going, they have to be able to show up on the road and play like a real football team on the road. If they do that Saturday, they'll be fine. And if they do that Saturday, there's a good chance this team goes 9-3. And if you go 9-3, you have a decent narrative to talk about this offseason. But if they lose this one, if they lose it, 7-5 is about the best you can expect. That's just what's going to happen, guys. That's just the way it plays out. Okay, let's leave that aside just for a second. We're going to cover one or two other things real quick. Let's do this. We're sort of at the halfway point. It's kind of been a weird season. We have the 2 bye weeks. Each of us, we're going to answer we're going to answer 2 questions. We're going to go around. First question is, at the halfway point, what are you pleasantly surprised by? And then we're going to go around and say, at the halfway point, what are you disappointed in? Greg, I can't wait to hear the positivity flow from your mouth. That's why I'm starting with you on that question. Question number 1 is, at the halfway point, what are you pleasantly surprised by?
Oh, it really depends on who they're playing, because the wins are against tomato cans, in my opinion. I look at that Illinois game, and I look at that more than I look at the Notre Dame loss because it's the way that they lost. It's how they're handling pressure situations in both Illinois and Notre Dame. I'm not excited about how they play in the big game still. There always seems to be a combination of both, in my opinion, player execution and coaching mistakes. I mean, some of the coaching mistakes are just absolutely, where you just go, I don't have to be a college football coach or a high school coach. What are they doing?
Hey, I don't disagree with any of that, but you're supposed to give me the one thing you're pleasantly surprised by. Is there anything?
Okay, here, make you happy. They're 5-2. Is that good enough? But I'm not happy with 5-2.
No.
But it's surprised by. Did you think you thought they'd be less than 5-2 by this point? Pleasantly surprised by 5-2. Did you have them? Did you have them 3-4?
Here's my answer, Chris. The offensive line has performed better than I think any of us anticipated going into the season. That's what I've been pleasantly surprised about.
Especially you have multiple games without Elijah Page and you lose your starting center. Yeah.
That's the right answer for everybody.
Yeah. Guys, I'm in the same place. The offensive line hasn't always been great. They weren't great against Notre Dame, but when you talk about when you lose Elijah Page, you're shuffling guys around, you lose your center. Even at Notre Dame, against a pretty good defense and a very tough crowd and tough conditions, even against Notre Dame, if you don't give up the kickoff return, if you pretend that you care about run defense, if you don't call the wild trick play where you've got a wide receiver running around with a wet ball juggling it, USC's offensive line still did enough that they could have won that game. That's a pleasant surprise. If you would have told me before the season that you're going to lose your starting center, Elijah Page is going to sit out for some of your toughest games, and you got to shuffle people around. DJ Wingfield, who you thought was going to be a starter, isn't going to play at all. You tell me that before the season, I'm expecting some absolute meltdowns up front. Haven't had a meltdown up front. They've done even in the games where they didn't play great. They've done enough to give you a chance to win. That's a pleasant surprise.
Okay, yeah, I will say that the offensive line has been a pleasant surprise, considering the injuries. Even when they weren't injured, they were opening holes. I don't care if it's against Georgia, Southern, Missouri State. They were still doing it. So I was impressed by that. I think the pass protection, pass pro, has been pretty darn good. I'll buy into that one. A lot of it, the interceptions, I don't really blame that on the offensive line at all. That was decisions that were made that I think that was unfortunate that it happened. But I think the players they play hard. They seem to really care. I think the backfield likes them, what they're doing. I'll give you another pleasant surprise now that you've got me rolling.
Yeah.
I think the tight ends have been a really pleasant surprise. I think the tight ends have really come through some really difficult catches by McCree. And you have to like Lyons and how he plays. And credit to Lincoln Riley. He's throwing the ball to his tight ends, and it does make a difference. Should they even have more, throw to the tight end even more? I could argue that they should. But overall, when you're asking about a pleasant, is Mekhi Lemon to me a pleasant surprise? No. I always thought he was really good. Is Jacoby Lane a pleasant surprise? No, because it was pretty much said that when he wants to be good, he can really be good. But otherwise, sometimes he's just not consistent about being good. Call it focus, whatever you want. So, yeah, I'll go with the offensive line as a pleasant surprise, and I'll go with the tight ends as a pleasant surprise.
And I'll give you number 3 before we leave.
Okay.
How about that backup place kicker?
Yeah, sorry.
I mean,
that is I tell you, if we're going to talk about a pleasant surprise, and I would totally agree with the backup kicker. I mean, he is really, really good. He's
yeah,
done it in difficult times. Getting kicked long field goals at Notre Dame is not the easiest thing to do.
hitting that
He's
54
done
yarder
it.
against Michigan to ice the game. I mean, these are real
Absolutely.
kicks.
And he's also on
Sayeri's been fantastic.
his kickoffs. I mean, so many
Kickoffs have been great.
people are going to blame, like I agree with Culkin. You know what? He got the ball to the end zone against Notre Dame. SC just didn't tackle
He put it in the corner 2 yards deep. That's a good kick.
That's a great
not on
kick.
him.
No doubt about it. No doubt.
Maybe he should have come in and made the tackle. I don't know. No, look, those are the good ones. Okay, here we go.
All right.
I got this. We're just going to do this, and then we're going to do our predictions. This is an easy one to answer. We'll probably have multiple answers. Are you ready, Mark Culkin?
Alrighty.
Halfway through, what are you most disappointed in?
The defensive line. We were told going into the season, and I get it, the coaches are doing what their coaches are supposed to do, but they have not performed up to their potential at all. And I know everybody else is probably going to say the linebacker play, correct answer as well. But I'll just generalize it, the defense. But it starts up front. And for me, that's been I guess the biggest disappointment.
Defensive line, good answer. Eric McKinney, what do you got?
It's how you finish. It's the entire defense. It's the entire defense, and yeah. I mean, it starts with the front, right? The talk was the size and the depth would allow that group to overwhelm some of the run game, really get to the quarterback by just rushing four, and again, you've got right. At Purdue, you could get there. Against Michigan State a bit, you could get there. It just hasn't been there. It hasn't been there. It hasn't been there all year. It's far from a strength. It's been not good at times. And you just thought it's one of those things, right? We're gonna bring a defensive line into every game. And so every game we're gonna start with that and we're gonna be in it because of that. And now you've got games where you're going into Nebraska. Nebraska gives up 40 sacks a game. And it's like, are they going to get to Dylan Raiola? I don't know. I don't know if a guy is going to win a one-on-one matchup consistently enough to get to that quarterback that everyone has gotten to. Everyone outside of, again, the abbreviations that I don't know early in the season. Everyone has gotten to him. I don't know if USC will. I don't know if they'll get there without bringing a corner or without bringing linebackers or without bringing pressure. And all off season and all the beginning of the year was we can get there with four now. We can get there with four. We can control an offensive line. We're going to be able to do it. And it starts to get into that sense of like, do you as coaches have a great understanding of what you have, and do you have a great understanding of what you're going against every week? Because it sure feels like, yeah, we're there or nearly there, and then you see it play out, and it's like, no, it's not all that close to being this sort of overwhelming force that you thought. So I want to watch the freshman, right? If Floyd Boucard comes back from injury and he's out there, Jakeem Stewart, like those are a couple pieces where Jakeem Stewart is the guy where every week, and it's not 100% great every single time, but if there's a flash play up front, 85-90% of the time it's him. And so you want to see more of that as you go along. And I do think, right, you are building there, you are putting resources there, you are moving in the right direction with all of that. It's not this year, and it hasn't been this year. And the talk coming in was it's this year, and this is when you're going to start to see it.
Yeah, Greg.
Oh dear.
Just give us one. Just give us one good one.
Well, what do you want me to say? What can we be specific? What is it that you want?
Just one area of disappointment halfway through the season.
Well, I think the defensive line certainly is, but I agree with Eric. It's the defense, and then you go back to the defensive coordinator, and you say, well, he's supposed to be this genius, right? Well, maybe he is a genius. Maybe the players they recruited just don't do what they say. So it's the players that, the beauty about college sports to me is you are who you recruit in a lot of ways. And if you can coach them and they're willing to listen to you, then you can be pretty effective. But if they don't listen to you, I don't care. I don't care that they're 6'5", 290, and they transferred from Alabama or Georgia. Look, there's a reason why they transferred. They're just not playing. They're not cutting it. And we're thinking, well, because they've got the Alabama or they got the Georgia, oh, they must be pretty good. They just didn't get a chance. Something happened that they didn't get a chance. Maybe the guy just doesn't have a good work ethic, doesn't do that. I think the most disappointing to me is all the talk about how good they should have been on the defensive line. I know if I coach Aaron Donald, I'm going to look like a really good coach if I could just teach him the fundamentals, because he was obviously a very motivated player to get things done. The question is why are the players, if the defensive system is so great, why are the players not doing it the way they're taught? If they're not doing it the way they're taught, then they don't play. I was at a basketball conference one time, and John Wooden was there, and he said this, and they asked him, how do you get through to your players when they, he says, if they don't do what I want, they sit. They sit. And I know when many people have coached that watch this show, I know when I've coached and when other people have coached, look, you don't do what I want, I'm going with the guy that does what I want. It's, you're not owed anything. Potential is unproven talent. As far as I'm concerned, the Trojan defensive linemen, they make some good things. I agree. Stewart should be playing way more than he's playing. I think this idea of, well, we're afraid if everybody doesn't get a chance, they're gonna transfer into the portal. Who cares? Let them transfer. If they don't want to do it, get rid of them. You took a chance. Maybe you made a wrong priority. You didn't really know the player that you recruited. But you know what? At this point in time, 5 games left in the season, you're either doing what I say and doing it well, or you ain't playing. Period.
Yeah. Look, this is an easy one in the sense that the defense has been a disappointment, really, at all 3 levels. And I want to say this clearly because I don't want you to misunderstand me. I think this USC defensive staff is a good group of coaches. I think if Denton Lynn, wherever Denton Lynn ends up in 5 years, he's probably going to be doing really well. And I think Rob Ryan knows how to coach defense. He knows linebacker play. Doug Belk did a fantastic job last year. For that matter, I thought last year USC was a pretty disciplined defense. They weren't the most talented group I'd ever seen. They didn't have much depth, especially up front. But I thought they played smart. I thought they were disciplined. I thought they were fundamentally sound. This group is not, and I don't know why. But you watch the games and you see the same mistakes being made over and over and over again. And it's unbelievable to me that this group of coaches, and I do think they're good coaches, has not been able to get through to this group of players and have them play fundamentally sound. That's just bad. It's bad. And the defensive coaching, I'm not saying they're bad coaches, they're good coaches, but the defensive coaching has not been effective. That's a disappointment. I never expected that.
Chris, can I just chime in here? Because you make a good point. But look, it all starts with the coach. You're either going to discipline these players or you're not. If players aren't going to do what you want, don't play them. Okay? I think all these coaches that have come here had great resumes, wonderful, wonderful. You make the point about last year you saw things you liked. This year you see things you don't like. I don't think the coaching has changed in terms of what they know and what they're teaching, but it gets down to, I know it's difficult in this day and age for college sports, where if a player doesn't play as much as he thinks he should be playing, okay, he's going to leave. But why are you going to reward players that aren't going to do what you want, especially right now? And I will say this, you can tar and feather me all you want. It all goes back to the head coach telling his assistant coaches, this is what we want. If they don't do it, we're not going to sit there and let's keep waiting. Let's keep waiting. Keep playing them because they just need experience. These guys have had 7 games of experience. If they don't know what they're doing and how to play, they're just not going to do it. You know, they might do it for one, maybe they'll do it against Oregon for a half, but in the end, games are 4 quarters from the beginning to the end. All sports are like that. First inning to ninth inning in baseball, whatever. You have to be ready to play every single down and play it as well as you can. And this idea of, well, they weren't in the right gaps, they weren't in the right. Look at you've been practicing with these guys. That's why when people say to me, "Oh, come on, Catsy, get off of it. You can't watch practice." This is what I look at practice. What are they doing? Not when they're doing the little drills in their own little, hit the bags. I want to see the end of practice, the last third, when they actually hit. When guys is he standing too high? Is he standing low? Does he give an effort all the time? I mean, if you watch Pete Carroll's teams practice, which of course most all of us did, and even people that are watching the show, they practiced like it was a freaking game. They were at it the minute they played. And when I think about SC going to Nebraska, when I was there with Carroll, that crowd was insane. But that SC team had nothing in its way. It was going to do exactly what they were told at 110%. They were gladiators. And when I watch this team and I look at that team, sure, Carroll's teams had great players, but they also played great. Okay. This team, we haven't seen that yet. And all the talk that I heard when people were getting in my face about, oh, he's just so negative. No, I saw what I saw based on my experience of having seen SC teams when they were good, in my own ability to have been on team staffs or be a part of programs that were really tremendous. The players just, it was like a real brotherhood. I always laugh when they, oh, I love this guy. I love my guys. You know what? The teams that are really, really good, they do love their guys, and they make sure that their guys don't let down. I don't know about the leadership quality of this team. I don't think the only people who would know that would be the coaching staff, because they see these guys all the time. So
we'll see over the last 5 games. I mean, these coaches know a lot more about football than I do, and I watch the games and I see mistakes that are being made over and over again. They have to fix them. They're good coaches. Will they fix it? We're going to find out starting Saturday, so let's do our predictions. Mark Hulkin, give me a score and give me just a couple sentences about why you think it's going to play out that way.
USC 37, Nebraska 30. They'll cover. It's going to play out that way because USC is going to make fewer mistakes than Nebraska.
Greg Katz.
Well, it goes back to, I want SC to win. I really badly want to see them win. But my head also says, look at that road record. Look at the mistakes that they've made. Could Nebraska beat them? Absolutely. Absolutely. If they don't play a really, really strong game, they're going to lose. And you say, well, some SC fan you are. No, I'm not. I try to look at it realistically. I'm going to root as hard as I can, just like all of these people that watch this show that are SC fans. But I will say this. Nebraska could beat them, but I'm going to pick SC by 1 or 2 field goals if they're going to win.
Eric McKinney.
Greg talks to people with the weirdest voices. You notice that? So I think it's close.
That's us. That's his
I think
voice.
it is. I think most of it's me. I think I hear myself in a lot of that. I just, again, if this is at the Coliseum, I don't think this is close. I think this is 14-17, something like that. Like USC is a better neutral site, whatever. USC is a better team, and they will beat Nebraska. I think anywhere it's played, it's going to be close. It's going to be close because it is, because they're on the road, and because even coming off a bye, there's just no way that I'm going to be convinced going into this one that they'll win by 17 like they should. So I think it's USC turns it over once. I think Nebraska turns it over multiple times, and I think USC wins that battle, and I think ultimately that's what it does. So 31-28, something like that. Like Nebraska's going to run, they're going to score, they're going to keep it close on the road.
Yeah, I see it the same way. In fact, I have almost the same score. I have it USC 31-27. I don't trust USC's defense, and I think Nebraska will move the ball. I trust USC's offense more. I think they'll make some mistakes on the road because they always do. But I think USC's personnel offensively, they're gonna be fine moving the ball. The game shouldn't be a 4-point game. I think it will be. 31-27, USC escapes and keeps alive the chance of what is at least a reasonably successful season. All right, fellas, that's it. Hopefully we're in a good mood next week and we have something fun to talk about. If not, then there'll be fireworks and we'll go. Anyway, whatever. Watch the game. Come back next week. We'll see what happens. Until then, fight on, everybody.